Dan Jones looks out of the tall window of an ornately wallpapered, still unfurnished drawing room. It's a grey day to match his grey mood. After negotiating walls of spiteful clouds, occasional pallid rays of sun cut the room's dust into buoyant eddies. For an ephemeral moment Dan's soaked in sunlight. For an instant his mind seems cleared of metaphorical darkness too, and hope is rejuvenated to dance alive in his mind. For a moment. As clouds cover the sun again, his blazing hope is brought crashing down into the rocky shoreline of reality and broken into fragments like a wave pulled down by gravity. An ill-humoured drizzle begins to beat in syncopated rhythm against the glass. Its score is violin bittersweet. As the rain ritually purifies the earth outside, the watercolour sky cries and cries and cries against the glass. Events are so inconvenient, he thinks. Complications, drowning the clarity of insight one otherwise might have hoped to develop. Dan guesses that his future is about to be scattered as unpredictably as the raindrops on the glass. My life will soon be a fluorescent blue blitz of public exposure in a trail of photo flashes. The media are about to pounce. Pale sun breaks through again, peeping through silver patches of clouds, then retreats once more. His attention is again brought down to earth, so he closes his eyes to listen to the crunching of the boots on the gravel path outside. The special effects training is going well, he thinks. Very special effects, we should call it, though, to be honest. When I see this, I can feel history itself surging like new life through my veins. Across the lawn stands a cardboard and plywood full-size mock-up of a fast-food restaurant of an infamous global brand. Dan watches 4 men in grey-green ponchos huddle some distance from it. The next triplet of eco-warriors and their teacher. To the staff in the grounds not in the know, they are the next trainees for the film school he's got going alongside the studio activities. They're getting a lesson for a scene in an action flick. But the explosives training they're getting here is military grade. From Sandhurst actually, and not cheap. As Dan has told this cell, and all the other cells, they're the Earth's true hope for a future. And of course they all believe it. They've been programmed to believe it, if nothing else. Power games, and I am the master of ceremonies. He smiles to himself. With the lack of caution that is perhaps success's most subtle deceit, Dan is beginning to feel destiny rest upon him, like a mantle of invulnerability. He smiles again to himself as he thinks, I'm killing 3 birds with 1 bomb. I'm helping the environment by providing the idealistic, the inspiration derived from slapping the complacent face of capitalism. And it's at a cost to my competitors. The campaign will also encourage an atmosphere of nervousness. It's consciousness raising, just the way I like. Dan's ruminating his grand plan over while waiting for Planet to go online and Dream Space to kick in. And he's actually planning for Armageddon. He shudders as he watches the raindrops trickle down the glass. There's no hint of irony in Jones' mind. In his perception of reality, he's putting the pieces into place before his very eyes. They're there in the sappers right in front of him in the grey drilling rain, and here in the comfortingly rich white and gold rococo swirling walls. And all he has to do is switch it all on, in sequence, like firecrackers, or maybe like a fuse. It's not as if anyone's getting hurt, he justifies to himself. We're very conscientious to stress the need to avoid casualties. This makes attacks like on the chicken factory puzzling, since forensically it was unquestionably executed by old recruits of ours. And there's the other rumours too. Steve's investigating the link even now. Should have it sorted soon. Dan's rocked out of contemplating the complications to his 5-year plan by a bang. He notices the orange glare of a plywood restaurant on fire. Towers of black smoke gush upwards. Bomb practice. Get the practice in, lads, he shouts at them. More special effects being tested, I see, a familiar voice adds. Jones turns. Steve, how's it going? He asks, pleased for the company. It means he can take his brain offline for a few minutes. Being a trainee tyrant is tiring. Real power must be exhausting. The man Dan addresses is in his late 30s, tall, thin, straw-coloured hair. The smile fixed on his face betrays a captivating charm. This man's suave tendency to manipulate and persuade is only barely held in check by Dan's own resourcefulness. Steve Troy's official title is Financial Director. In reality, Troy has extracurricular activities beyond his remit, as he would smile to put it. If Jones could see behind the mask of flesh, into the mind of the man, he would be very surprised to find the mystery of the rogue cells already cleared up, since behind his persona Troy's being much more proactive than most on environmental issues. But there are no cracks in the facade he presents to Jones. He replies characteristically enthusiastically, "Things are going brilliantly, actually. Studio One is almost ready to spring to life. It's waiting for us." His smile implausibly broadens again. Dan responds to Steve's positivity. "You're right, Steve. Things are going excellently right now." He smiles too, but unpersuasively. He's meeting increasingly bloody adversity in the dungeons of his mind from a conscience which cannot quite be silenced. Despite the clarity of his ambition, he still hasn't convinced himself he's doing the right thing. Anxiety churns around inside him. He says to Troy distractedly, "I'm going over to Studio One to check a few things, actually. Do you mind going back there with me? We can talk." They walk quickly, mostly quietly, through once stately, candle-lit, now fluorescent, yet still dusty old corridors. Like sci-fi déjà vu, or a waking nightmare of our technological destiny, Dan catches a vision in the corner of his mind's eye of robots purring quietly along smooth, sterile white corridors, patrolling endless bodies frozen in an endless state of dreaming. In reality, the technological future is coming to birth all around him. Crews are worming cables along tunnels or performing other arcane installations. There's the fragrant evidence of the caterers preparing supper. The yeasty, fat-saturated smell of roast beef, non-ecologically. Polite admin in suits occasionally buzz from door to door, endeavouring to keep the business arc afloat. Sometimes people show acknowledgement of their two bosses, but mostly they just carry on whatever they're doing. When Dan and Steve arrive at the studio on the furthest outskirts of this half-antique termite mound, Sophia's there, talking with a technician. They're standing over a console that looks like a mission control center, which it is in a way. The techie nods "I see you" to the two men as they come up, then walks off, talking directions into the microphone strapped to his face. Dan speaks first. "How's the dream space, Sophia? Have they managed to resynchronize the image reassembler with the broadcast signal?" "It's working perfectly, Dan. Don't be so nervous. It's not as if we haven't tested it to destruction already. You've seen evidence that it works coming out in your own dreams, so you know it does. Just as I know you know it does. But still, this will be the first time we're using it properly broadcast. It'd be a shame if it didn't go off with a bang the first time. Even if it's a subliminal bang we pray nobody notices." It annoys Sophia how much Dan worries. It's so unhelpful. Perhaps to others it would be impressive how he finally gets things done despite the great fears he apparently has. What can she say though? It's hard to accuse someone when merely formulating the accusation could be made out as oversensitive paranoia. Talking of paranoia, she also can't help noticing how Steve often looks at her, sidelong, with shifty eyes, covetously possessive, something Dan's apparently oblivious of. Dan has too many things on his mind, clearly. But Sophia's becoming acutely suspicious of the sincerity of Steve's convivial manner, let alone his many unaccountable movements, a suspicion she'll conceal from him until she has time to find out more. Whatever he's up to, he must be up to no good somewhere. and it doesn't seem unlikely that it'll have something to do with their dubious new Italian connection, who is definitely not a media executive. The real, scheming Stephen Troy isn't unattractive, though, maybe even a little dangerous for being so well hidden. Studio One is almost ready. Thick black cables snake across a shiny white set still scattered with debris. Ubiquitous electricians are testing wiring, rewiring, while diverse technicians check and recheck equipment. Sound, video, lighting, the fire alarm. A couple of electricians are on a gangway directly above the trio, changing spotlight fittings. On other gangplanks, men are routing wiring through channels along the ceiling. A woman is painting a wall in fresh preparation for filming. Some are soldering final touches together. A set of set designers are pressurizing a carpenter into adjusting props so that the appearance will be perfectly according to their ideal. Most of the set is glossy white surfaces, the point being an implied unblemished purity, perhaps even a hint of heaven. Blocks of the shining white set are stacked together at angles, looking like a giant surrealist bowl of angular angelic fruit. The wood of the frames is still often visible, yet everything is almost ready for the flagship broadcast. Steve looks around and says, "It feels like we're building a real global media headquarters here, doesn't it?" "Yeah, Highway House is a great fortress for insecure egos," Sophia says. "It even has an armory, though I wouldn't want to fire any of the muskets." Inhaling taboo indoor nicotine as if no one here is going to tell her not to, and shivering. "That wouldn't be my thinking about it," Dan smiles at them. "To me, this is evolution in action, in terms of being a very rational strategy for survival. Educate the populace while they make us rich." Steve adds, "Our strategy should be to control what we can, and by the way, introduce as much anarchy into the rest of the system as possible." That's a very efficient methodology for power. Dan agrees. Yes, that's what it means to work your way towards any politically significant ideal. Conflict, blood, one bloody step at a time. He squints prophetically at an invisible distant horizon, as if he's practicing for his forthcoming live appearance. "Ideally, we want a perfect balance of entertainment and education," Sophia contributes, attempting to re-steer the conversation earthwards. She clasps both their shoulders. "The Planet Project will give us a good excuse to zoom off to some exotic locations too. That's hard to justify when you're an ecologist." The monitors in the background show a clip of another flood, this time in Bangladesh. Considering everything, I don't think there's a moment to waste getting the planet into people's minds. "Yeah, we got to get the message in deep and fast now," Dan affirms, as a different vision of the future assaults his eyes.